MLB draft recap here on the call up. We've been itching to do this, but we wanted to make sure we had at least a couple more picks in because we had some money savers in the first round. What exactly as we expected, right?
No, not exactly as we expected. The MLB mock draft 4.0 was really good. Like, hey, 6 accurate picks. But like, you got to remember, that's like the best clip that we've got out there. If a mock has 6 correct picks in the MLB draft, when like there are more financial conversations than we could ever imagine going on, I'd say we're in a good spot.
I know a couple of my favorite folks that we get to interact with consistently that listen to the podcast just immediately 0 for 1. Oop, that was Logan, I think.
Yeah.
Just giving us a hard time.
Right. It's like, thanks, man.
It's going to get really ugly really quick. We salvaged on the back end a little bit, which was fun. But I mean, MLB's mock draft, I do genuinely think if you get 5, you got to feel pretty good about it.
I think so.
Because of the financial implications as well, which I think is a great point where, people might be surprised, how did this guy fall to where he fell? It's not an indictment on the player. Like JJ Weatherholt, I promise you, teams think he's a top 3 caliber player.
Yeah.
Just the way these deals worked out, the way they were kind of maneuvering, wanted to go about it. It was kind of one, or this thing could start to slide quickly. So we're going to talk about that and how fortunate it is for the Cardinals. We're going to go through each of these teams' drafts quickly, but a little bit more on the more unique approaches. I want to spend a little bit more time on Senja.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I say that right. Every time
Senja.
And how that opened up the door for Ryan Sloan, things like that. We might fly through a little bit more on like the Weatherholt type of picks because the Cardinals, like, that's it. That's their draft.
Right.
Which is great.
Yeah, no, awesome.
Pick again for a while.
You got a top 100 prospect. Yeah, cool.
You're probably never going to, your goal as the Cardinals is to never pick in the top 10.
Right.
So I think this was a really fun draft stream also, by the way. Maybe to those who hung out with us on YouTube for that stream and were celebrating with us as we salvaged a couple mock draft picks, correct?
Yes.
Culpepper and Yannick on the back end. But yeah, we'll get into it, Jack. Like, we're going to fly through each of these teams, go through them. And again, we'll do more as things finalize. Like, don't worry. This is not like the entirety of our coverage. When bonuses come in, when we see the way that these pools all shake out and the way the teams are going to try to shore this whole thing up, we will continue to check in and continue to talk about these guys. And just for full disclosure, I feel really confident in my knowledge of, the first round and the second round. It gets a little bit dicey. With so many of these guys. So I'm going to be spending the next few weeks getting to know the 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders that clearly were a priority to teams and clearly were guys that I think these teams were excited to get. So if we don't have as much on them now, I apologize. I'll have more on those guys later, but we can at least add the context of this clearly was a guy that they were trying to get.
Yeah.
And this is why they may have saved money on the front end.
Yeah. Also, moving forward, when you're talking, do you want me to like look at you? I feel like that would make it weird. We're sitting right next to each other here. Okay, got you. So like at the Airbnb in Arlington, it's like, hey, do I just like stare you down like this? Right, because it would make you super uncomfortable. And frankly, like it's hard for me too. But I'm going to be kind of like looking at your screen. I'm like, what is this guy doing? And then I'll be looking at the camera as well. But we're going to kind of work team by team. And the way that, we can kind of frame this, we're talking on Tuesday morning. So this is after the conclusion of round 10, but before 11 through 20. Finish up on Tuesday. This is really kind of framed as like early leans on each team, like immediate leans. Hey, did you like this draft? Did you not like this draft? Who performed well, like in terms of selecting in the first, like obviously we're going to place an emphasis on the first round pick and probably the second round pick too, but is there a guy in the 4th that jumps out? Is there a guy in the 3rd that jumps out? That kind of thing. So I'm going to kind of walk us through team by team. I'll name the front 5 picks and then anybody else that may jump out. And kind of just kick it over to you and see where you lean. Like, hey, do you like what they did? Or are you questioning what they did?
Beauty, and apologies in advance on pronunciations because normally we'll take the time to try to do that.
Yeah, but like, we don't know the high school kid from Arkansas. Like, I'm sorry, man. But yeah, we'll start with the Arizona Diamondbacks here. And they went Slade Caldwell, 29th overall, the Arkansas high school kid. I do know how to say that, Arkansas high school kid. Ryan Waldschmidt was the next one, the PPI pick that they got for Corbin Carroll, winning Rookie of the Year, the Kentucky outfielder. J.D. Dix, Whitefish Bay, Northern Milwaukee, high school shortstop, a switch hitter, went in the competitive balance round A. Then you had Ivan Luciano, a high school kid from Puerto Rico that went 64th overall. And then their third-round pick, Daniel Egan from Presbyterian, junior out of Presbyterian, was their fifth pick.
I'm just laughing. I have a lot. It's actually this is one of my favorite drafts, but I just got down to the 10th round. You mentioned that they had drafted someone from Transylvania University.
Yeah, there you go.
You didn't mention that his last name was Young.
I said he had a weird name. I was like,
Young, like Transylvania vampire.
oh, that took me a second to compute. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Consider me all in on Trent Youngblood's home pick. Don't know anything about him yet. We'll talk about him later. I love the way that this unfolded. And we were talking about it in the live stream. I'm like, if they get Caldwell and Waldschmidt when both were on the board there, because they pick again, it was 29 and then 31. But oh my goodness, they're cooking with gas here.
Yeah,
Caldwell is one of my favorite players out of the high school ranks in this draft. Of course, you had the clear cut 1 and 2, which is Connor Griffin and Bryce Rayner.
Yeah,
but I thought Slade Caldwell was closer to those two than I think he got credit for. It is a really fun operation. And by the way, linked in the episode description is our draft rankings. Those came out early on draft day. Next year, I will be sure to get it out earlier so that you guys have more time to digest it. But I figure now anyways, it's still applicable.
Right.
So that's linked in the episode description. You'll see that there's some guys I really like that are ranked a lot higher than they went and vice versa. So, we'll see how that ages and things, but that gives you a little bit of a idea of where I lean now. And where I lean is I like Caldwell and I like Waldschmidt. I'd say we were slightly higher than the industry on Waldschmidt, much higher on Caldwell.
Much higher on Caldwell.
And I mean, to get both of those guys, Caldwell, it's kind of that same archetype of what you love about a Corbin Carroll and an Alec Thomas, right? 5'9", 5'10", kind of muscle hamster type of build where twitchier than you'd ever imagine for a guy of that frame. But beyond that, a little bit more power than you'd expect, really sound and advanced swing, can motor and play a good center field. Caldwell is one of my favorite players in this draft. So to get him and then also have Waldschmidt floating at 31, a data darling of a hitter, phenomenal year in the SEC, I think you got to be thrilled with how this went. And then they go get an intriguing high school piece in J.D. Dix, who I like the swing there too. He's fast. He can play shortstop. I thought they nailed these first 3 rounds. Couldn't have went much better for him.
So I thought this was cool because they kind of had these stacked, right? It went 29, 31, 35. Arizona really felt like last year's Mariners when they had that runoff of picks and they went with Colt Emerson, Ty Pete, Johnny Farmello. All those guys immediately got into their top 10 prospects. Arizona, we know that's not a good system right now. Not objectively not a good farm system. And we've seen Gilbert Diaz really show out in his first 2 starts, but that guy was a total pop-up right now. Their best position player prospect outside of Tommy Troy, Gino Groover, Ivan Melendez, it's tough. So you just added 3 guys that are arguably 2, 3, and 4 when you look at your hitting prospects. That's a great, it's a great draft.
Think about it through that lens. It's like the B version of what the Mariners.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not.
No, I mean that it was the draft. This was relative to 23 a bad draft because 23 was an amazing draft, and Farmello and Emerson are both top 100 prospects. Pete, if he achieves what we think he can achieve, making his way to Double-A, by the time he gets to Double-A, he could very well be a top 100 guy.
And he's probably going in the Theo Gillen range.
Exactly.
So I think you bring up a great point. Even if you have one of the worst systems in baseball, you get 3 guys, position players, into your top 10 in a draft like this.
It's an influx, man.
Gotta be pumped about it. I really like what the D-backs did here.
It's really cool. All right, we'll jump to Atlanta here. In Arizona, we're going to go longer on the ones that we like. Atlanta, I think, is another one that we like, especially the first-round pick. 24th overall was Cam Caminiti, the left-hander, still 17 years old or a very young 18?
Old 17.
Old 17 from Saguaro High School in Arizona. Also, I learned because of the cactus, G is silent. So it's not Saguaro, it's Saguaro. Saguaro High School in Arizona. But the nephew of Ken Caminiti, the former big leaguer, Carter Holton, the pitcher out of Vandy, went in the 2nd round. 3rd round was Luke Sinnard from Indiana, maybe Sinnard. I'm sorry, Luke, however you say your name. Herrick Hernandez, the pitcher from the University of Miami, went in the 4th round. In the 5th round, they took a high school catcher by the name of Nick Montgomery from California. The big one here is Caminiti.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those where I think you just figure out the rest of the draft.
Yeah.
It's not like they punted a Holton, an intriguing process.
No, but it's if you go $500,000 over slot, it's all right, well, we got the best prep arm in the draft.
And that's what we were saying on the Just Baseball show, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think if a B version of Cam Caminiti was available, I think the Braves may have taken him in this class because they love the pitching in the first round. We talk about that. They love the prep arms. Caminiti, there's people out there that think this guy was arguably in the same conversation in terms of prospect intrigue and projection, in the same conversation as the two college arms, and Higgins Smith and Chase Burns. I think he was very clearly the best prep arm in this class. I love that cross-body delivery from a lefty that can get carry on the fastball from that high 3/4. He got better and better as the year went on. He can really mix in the changeup, found a slider a bit more. I mean, this was the best case scenario for the Braves. And I mean, if somebody told you that this was a possibility, or let's say going into the draft, you heard something like from a source, the Braves are hoping Caminiti falls to them.
Okay, yeah, I'd be hoping too, yeah.
Like, this couldn't have worked out better. Holton still comes with some intrigue too, so they still go get some other arms of interest, and Sinnard, also a decent college arm as well. So you get your high upside prep arm, mix in a couple college arms, but the story here is Caminiti.
Absolutely. Let's jump to Baltimore here. Baltimore, let's address the elephant in the room before we get any further. They all look the freaking same. We know that. And like, we see the memes, we see Kjerstad, Holiday, Gunnar, Adley Rutschman, like they're all stacked. I mean, Kyle Stowers looks the exact same too. They all look the same. Vance Honeycutt, Griff O'Farrell, Ethan Anderson, two Virginia guys, UVA, O'Farrell, the Virginia shortstop, and the PPI they got for Gunnar winning Rookie of the Year, and their second round pick, Ethan Anderson, Virginia catcher. They look the same. Vance Honeycutt is the perfect, like, attached to the meme. Kjerstad, Holiday, Rutschman, Gunnar, Vance Honeycutt. They got the most tooled out player in the first round, probably, in Vance Honeycutt, who can hit the crap out of it and is the best defender in the draft class.
Defender, period, and arguably, one of the toughest, if not the toughest position to be an 80 grade defender.
Right.
It's up there.
And dude, they have two 70, 80 grade defenders now that they've taken in the first round of the last two drafts.
And what I love is offensively, they don't have a type, clearly. Bradfield last year.
They like good. They like productive
defense. And then I think this is just speculation here, but it seems like they are okay with hitters on opposite ends of the spectrum. If they are polarizing, they are confident in their ability to center them a little bit.
Yeah.
You're not going to center them all the way.
No.
But if you take them from 99 to 75 or from 1 to 25, depending on what end of the spectrum you're on, the tools that they have, right? You look at a Bradfield, it's the speed that really puts them over the top. If you look at, a Honeycutt, it's the speed and power, but Bradfield also, it's the bats of ball, but he doesn't have the power. So it's like you're trying to make this like complete player here and try to round out the edges. And that's why we thought Honeycutt makes this all the sense in the world for them, because if one team could afford to swing for the fences here, and look, there's a legitimate chance that Honeycutt doesn't hit enough. And that's why for me, he kind of slid to the back end of our top 30 of draft prospects.
Yeah.
But if I were the Orioles, I would go for him. No doubt about it.
You don't need to hit in the first round, like especially when you're picking 22nd overall and you have the best farm system in baseball. You don't need Vance Honeycutt to be an all-star. You don't need him to be a big leaguer. You're just dreaming on what could be, and they have gotten themselves to the point. I made this point on the Just Baseball show. When you're this good, you can roll the dice like this.
Yep. And I love the idea that, if you look at Major League Baseball, the top 10 center fielders right now, that position has fallen.
It's not,
And now you have, and defense is so important out there, especially with how much, we are able to track that and see how it impacts pitchers, and especially in Camden.
Yeah.
You now have the center fielder that they have now, and of course, you're hoping Mullins will figure it out, but you have Cowser doing what he's doing. We've gone through the whole lineup of guys that can do it there, but even like the second tier of Judd Fabian, who can go get it out there and play a great center field. You mentioned Bradfield. Now you add Honeycutt to the fold. Like, they've got so many dudes that are great defenders out there, and you can just stockpile them and decide who you like the most. And this is a great test for their hitting development, which has clearly been very hard to deny. And then Griff O'Farrell, like, if you're going to go risky with the first pick and say, okay, there's a chance he might not even, end up being an everyday piece for us, so the floor still is higher because of the defense. O'Farrell's hit over everything.
Right.
High probability, at least bench infielder. So to mix him in there, and then you get a catcher in Ethan Anderson, also a UVA kid that also has a well above average hit tool. Seems like they offset the risk of Honeycutt at the top with two guys who are high probability big leaguers as well. And at the end of the day, Honeycutt at worst, I still think is this fourth outfielder type that just runs into homers and you tolerate the whiff enough and set him up for positions of success. But if it all works out, I mean, you end up getting a steal here at 22. People aren't going to remember what the prospect profile was. Say, how did the Orioles get away with it again?
Right, exactly. Staying in the division here, we go to Boston, and this is all about who they took 12th overall. Somehow Braden Montgomery got to him, the A&M outfielder that was, third in college baseball in homers this year. I think it went Condon, Bazana, Montgomery, at least among the draft prospects. There might have been a mid-major guy that I'm missing here, but Braden Montgomery, who went down, broken ankle in the regional or super regional. I think it was super.
And he was super.
I think it was the super regional, but Braden Montgomery went down with that. He'll probably miss the entirety of the season, but at the end of the day, man, like, this was one of the best bats in college baseball, and like one of my favorite guys in the draft. I know one of your favorite guys in the draft. They followed it up with Peyton Toll, the TCU left-hander, in the second round. In the third, Brandon Neely, the right-hander from the University of Florida. Zach Earhart, the outfielder from Oklahoma State. And then in the fifth round, Brandon Clark, not the Gonzaga 4, State College of Florida Manatee, a JUCO lefty that spent 3 years at the JUCO level, apparently. But it's all about Montgomery here.
I mean, for Montgomery to fall into their lap, and a guy that they probably feel good about being ready to go when they need him to be ready to go. I think for spring training, he should be out there. And the craziest part about it is they continue to just have these players fall right to them. And it's a blessing for the Red Sox now that already have one of baseball's strongest farm systems, already have so much outfield talent. We just watched Roman Anthony go crazy.
Dude,
and the
ballistic in that skills competition.
Yeah. So there's so much talent there offensively. And we're not even mentioning Yoenis Cespedes. We can go on and on. This is another one of those where I think they had a lot of different plans. I think Savage could have made sense. I really don't think that they considered it very likely for Montgomery to fall into their lap. And usually when that happens, sometimes you got to start punting on the later picks, but you like the first round pick so much you do that. They didn't have to do that too much. I think Peyton Tolle is an underslot guy, maybe slightly, but this is such a high probability big leaguer as well. And a guy that's going to fit so well in this Red Sox system because they're pitching driven, right? They're so good at developing now all of a sudden with the new front office. It's way more pitching centric. Peyton Tolle might be one of the more unique fastballs in the entire class. He's 6'6". He releases from a 5'2" release height, yet somehow gets 7 feet of extension.
So that's literally just trying to do the splits on the mound and then trying to like touch your chest to your knee after you do the splits.
I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
And if they can get those secondaries further along, he could be an interesting starter, but at the very least, you've got a fun reliever here. And speaking of fun relievers, Brandon Neely was one of the most impressive relievers in college baseball last year. So
yeah.
Yes, it's two relievers potentially here, but two very high probability big leaguers who you can move quickly. And you went out and got a guy that probably would be a top 100 prospect for us
in Montgomery.
Pick
yeah.
In a weaker draft.
I mean, that was Teal last year. Like Teal was a top 100 guy after going, 13th, 14th, 14th. Montgomery, like, I would have been happy if the White Sox took him at 5. Yeah. But, like, he fell to 12 in Boston. So, really, really impressive. And, again, like, I don't know if impressive is the right word because it feels easy. But, like, good on Craig Breslow for, like, getting the best fortune cookie at the restaurant the night before.
And say, there's more, like, credit to him. And he drafted really well later on, the Roman Anthony.
Yeah.
Like that. But when it came to the first round pick, like, credit for not overthinking it. Right. Sometimes you deserve credit for that because teams start to let guys fall that maybe shouldn't have fallen.
Yep. All right, we jump to the Cubs here. Speaking of a guy falling into their lap, Cubs got Cam Smith at 14, the Florida State third baseman. They follow with Cole Mathis in the second round, the third baseman from College of Charleston. Then you've got a Dominican kid by the name of Ronnie Cruz that was at Miami Christian, switching a shortstop in the third. In the fourth, Basic High School in Nevada, another shortstop, Ty Southacene. I don't know. And then Ariel Armas, the catcher from the University of San Diego. Was Chris Bryant University of San Diego? Yeah, he was. He was not UC San Diego. He's the University of San Diego. So I think they've established that pipeline. But interesting to see 4 guys on the left side of the infield go with their first 4 picks. One of them we know is an exceptional talent.
We talked about it on the live stream. Cam Smith is one of my favorite hitters in this draft, 7th on our big board here. It felt like the Matt Shaw situation all over again, where before we're doing last year's stream, I'm force feeding you Matt Shaw highlights saying, look at this guy, look at this guy. The hitting power is crazy, but people are concerned that he puts the ball on the ground too much. Like, he can fix it very easily, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, Shaw falls into the Cubs' lap. Here, similar situation. We were hearing that there was steam of Cam Smith potentially going top 10, and that steam may have been there as the draft got closer. Maybe the deals didn't work out. But what's amazing to me is he falls right to the Cubs again. Smith, and if you want to read more, again, it's in the write-up there, but it's hitting power to all fields. Guy can actually play a good third base. I was very surprised that he was not, a little bit more highly regarded, but I understand it because he was a redshirt sophomore or draft eligible sophomore, I should say.
Yeah.
Doesn't have as much of a track record after an iffy freshman year, but dominated on the Cape, dominated his sophomore year. And I get it, like the ability, it's a stagnant swing. Like there's some things that scouts naturally may be a little bit apprehensive of or wary of, but sometimes you just got to look at what this guy can do and say, okay, he might just be capable of things that others aren't physically. Great get for them. Cole Mathis, by the way, too, data darling. And that's usually how it goes with the College of Charleston side, William and Mary's.
Right.
I love getting another fun power bat here, 90th percentile that I think was above 106.
Yeah, so you just sparked something in me. Like it kind of sounds similar to Ben Williamson with the Mariners taking him out of William and Mary. Yes. Like you said, William and Mary and like data darling, and I was like, oh wow, yeah. So that makes a lot of sense, right? Okay.
There's so much talent. Like basically, we talked about it now. Like you can find some gems here.
You can find guys at Campbell. You can find guys at like all those places.
And Mathis, it's a little bit more. I think with Ben Williamson, it was the field of hit was so impressive and data metrically, defensively graded out unreal, and teams have access to that stuff. With Mathis, it's like he hits the ball hard, and we'll see how he handles more advanced pitching. That's always the question with mid-major guys. Mm-hmm. That's fine with me when you're not picking again until 54. Rather than have any comp picks, they had to wait a little bit. That's a great get for them, I think, there. And I don't have a ton else on the rest of the guys there, but I will say this is a class I will eagerly dig into more.
Yeah.
Because you can say what you want about Jed Hoyer and how things have gone, at the big league level this year. That dude, and I know you're a big component of it, that dude can draft. They've found guys in the later rounds all the time, i.e. Zaire Hope, and maybe they turn into trade chips, maybe not. But I have a feeling that they found some interesting guys here later and some California scouting here,
yeah,
which is fascinating to me. You had a trio of California picks, San Diego, Santa Barbara, and then San Diego again. So I'd venture to say they saw a lot of these guys,
yeah,
and they liked some.
And not often does Jed fumble a first-round pick. We saw Ed Howard, that was a fumble. I think we're willing to say that now. But like a Shaw, Cam Smith, like time will tell. But Cade Horton was not a fumble at all. They know what they're doing when they're picking in the top 20 of a draft. We'll go to a team in the White Sox that sometimes knows what they're doing, sometimes doesn't know what they're doing. And I think recently they have shown that they know what they're doing in the draft. And this was Chris Getz's first draft as the lead man. And his first pick was Hagen Smith, the left-hander from Arkansas, who was, by some, including yourself, the best pitcher in the draft. So they go Hagen Smith at 5, Caleb Bonnemer at 43 in the second round, the Michigan high school shortstop that I know was kind of mocked a lot in the first round at the beginning of the year and kind of midway through. I'm not sure if he fell off at all at the end of the year or what. Blake Larson, left-hander from IMG Academy, went to them in Comp B. In the third round, Nick McClain, an Arizona State outfielder, and then Casey Sauke, a Virginia outfielder, went in the fourth round. Another interesting one, the catcher from A&M, Jackson Appel, went to them. And this is going to be a very, very deep-cut name. Evan Skog, you remember him, the TCU catcher? Skog was in the White Sox system for a while, and I was like, I love having guys like Evan Skog in the farm system because he could pan out, and Jackson Appel was one of the safer catchers for the best team in college baseball for the majority of the year.
Sometimes people just overlook those guys and say, oh, what's he going to become? Well, what is he already? And when he's already could be a decent...
Right. I mean,
you at least like having in your phone.
Again, Jason DeLay, like he doesn't really get you out of bed in the morning, but Jason DeLay's a big leaguer, man, and he was the catcher on a really good Vandy team. It helps to be a catcher on a really good team.
And I will tell you at the top here, you mentioned Getz's first draft. I would probably approach it very similarly if it was my first draft. And you want to just do what you would naturally do
Yeah.
But like, let's be honest here. You also aren't going to roll the dice nearly as much as somebody that, has the security. You can do on it for a long time. And, if you have conviction in an upside guy like Caglione, we know they liked Caglione. Like, it could have went with Jack there, but
it could blow up in their face.
And that is going to be attached to you. You are attaching yourself to Jack Caglione. It could also go the other way, and we'll talk about him. Like, he's my number 3 player in the class. I love him, but like, I'm not going to ignore the volatility there.
Right.
Hagen Smith is as high floor, I think, as you're going to find in this class, because even if it doesn't work out from a starting pitching perspective, which I feel very confident that it will, he's one of the best high leverage relievers, if not closers, in baseball.
Yeah.
I really feel confident about that. It's a lot of the similarities to Crochet in terms of just the profile and like how it can work out, and like a wide range of outcomes usually has a negative connotation for obvious reasons. But I think in this sense, it has a positive where he could be a 2-starter if he finds the change up and the command comes along a little bit more. He could be a 4-starter / 3-starter if he's just fastball slider and dominates with that. And he could be a high leverage reliever and a very, very good one if the command just stays, continues to be a little bit of an issue and the changeup doesn't come along. But I think it will. He's going to climb very quickly. And then you still do get a little bit of the upside play with the high school shortstop a little bit later on. And then you get some fun players later on with McLean, a decent outfield piece there, switch hitter from Arizona State. And then getting the upside high school arm in Blake Larson. I like what they did here. I think it was a good balance of, I want to play it a little bit safe in my first draft here as the guy that's fully in charge, but also still adding in some upside. This is a pitching stable that rivals any in professional baseball right now.
There's no question about that. All right, we'll jump to Cincinnati here. Speaking of pitching stable, they add to it with the 2nd overall pick in Chase Burns. The Wake Forest right-hander went number 2 overall. 51st overall in the 2nd round was a high school kid from Nebraska, shortstop Tyson Lewis. Luke Holman, the LSU right-hander, went in comp B to them, 71st overall. 3rd round, they went Mike Sirota, the Northeastern outfielder, and then Peyton Stovall, the second baseman from Arkansas, went to them in the 4th round. I mentioned to you, they're drafting a college all-star team, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. They grabbed a lot of guys with success. I question the ceiling of a guy like Holman and Stovall. I question the floor of a guy like Sirota. And Burns is a wild card that could turn into one of the more electric arms in baseball. Like, they could see 100, a disgusting slider, and a little bit of a home run problem, and say, hey, Hunter Green has turned into a damn good pitcher for us. Maybe that's Burns too. But again, I know what the dimensions are in Winston-Salem. Chase Burns had a home run problem this year.
Yes. And it's not even just a home run problem. It's a fastball problem. Like, it's a great heater. Like, in terms of the velocity and what it can be. And there are some good characteristics to it. But from his release point, straight up over the top like that, coming down on plane, hitters crushed it. And that's not to say that this is a bad pick. He's number 6 player in the class for us. It was just surprising fit-wise. And I know you go best player available, and I thought a hitter would be the best player available.
Right. At number 2, yeah.
And if you look at what the Reds kind of could do here, you could have went Charlie Condon. You could have went with Weatherholt. You could have went with Caglione. You could have went with a lot of guys here that I would have probably preferred. But at the end of the day, it's not like major, why would you do that? A lot of people consider Chase Burns, and I'd imagine the Reds brass considers Chase Burns the best pitcher in the draft. Valid. That slider alone will make him a high leverage reliever and a very, very good one, at the very least, that you can fast track. And that fastball will play much better in 1 and 2 inning spurts when he can throw 101, 102. He's got the curveball as well. My concern is, yes, people are saying, oh, well, the home run problem may be because of Wake Forest is a bandbox. He allowed a 950 OPS on his fastball on the road too. Lefties, he really struggled to get him out. They had an OPS over 1,000 against him with that fastball. And I just felt like the slider was the get out of jail free card for him all the time. And it will be professionally too, but not to the same degree. So that's my concern there. And the fit was a bit surprising, considering that he's now going to go to a place where it's not much easier to keep the ball in the yard. It's as hard as anywhere to keep the ball in the yard, to be honest.
Can I tell you now, I've slept 2 nights on this, and we're saying the same things that were our initial concerns with Hunter Green. Like, the same exact things.
And so what you're hoping for is that
the Hunter Green progression.
And I think from the Reds' perspective, they've had so many guys that just don't seem to be durable. And I know it's a high effort release, but he is a guy that has just eaten innings in college. He has maintained velocity deep into the season, that was something I watched with him, particularly because it's like high effort, high spot righty. How do you hold your velo deep into starts and deep into the season? 100 innings this year, held it all year long. So I feel good about that.
So can I decided something, like I'm firmly planting my flag in something, and I don't think it's because I'm just like tired of the conversation. I think I'm sick of talking about durability concerns with pitchers.
I agree.
I'm sick of it. Like, they're either going to get hurt or they're not going to get hurt. And we see guys that are durable that get hurt all the time and blow out, and they're out for a year and a half. I frankly don't care about the durability conversation.
I think all you'll get is more endurance, I think.
Sure.
Those,
and like,
those overlap.
yeah, and he went 6 1/3 innings per start. Like, give me that. He sustained velocity through the 6th inning.
I think the main reason to look at this point, effort, it always was durability. I agree with you 100%. I think it really should just be, okay, well, is that max effort delivery going to make it hard for him to consistently locate and consistently spin it? So that's going to be a whole conversation here. I'm very interested to see how it all goes, but I did like the Tyson Lewis pick. Mm-hmm. I do think that he's a fun upside piece that the Reds don't do that enough of late. I think they got a little traumatized by some previous drafts.
Yeah, for sure.
And then they love to go with the obvious college pick. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Like, going with Sirota as the obvious college pick when he falls into your lap in the 3rd round, a guy that had first round steam, great. See if he can develop. His power will play out, though, in that spot. Same with Stovall. So I think it was a good draft overall. I think they did well on the back end. Holman, as you mentioned, high floor arm. He's going to get outs. He's going to throw strikes. That's great. But the Burns side of it was a bit of a surprise, and they're going to need to develop him right. He's going to need to really find that fastball at the top to be able to, I think, have some more success with it, not tuck it down. And I'm concerned about the home run thing. It'll be fun to watch and see if that fastball, if college hitters at a 9-something OPS, what are pro guys going to do if you don't make a adjustment?
Exactly. Okay, Cleveland. And if you haven't been able to tell right now, we are going in alphabetical order. So if you are just really interested in how your Texas Rangers drafted, pop over to YouTube. I think they're going to be available on Spotify too, and you can just kind of click too. But Cleveland had the number 1 overall pick. Travis Bazzana, the Oregon State second baseman, went number 1 overall. He was the best player in the class. You had him number 1 on the player rankings. Then they pick again at 36. They go Braylon Dowdy from Chaparral High School, a pitcher, high school arm from California. Jacob Cozart, then the NC State catcher, went in the 2nd round, 48th overall. 84th overall, kid named Joey Oki, an Iowa high school pitcher. I'm here for that name. Rafe Schlesinger, a Miami left-hander as well. So they went 3 pitchers in their first 5 picks. They also went with the NC State catcher and Cozart and Travis Bazzana. Also, interesting one, they took a Rutgers lefty in the 8th round. Z-S-A-K is the last name. How do you say that?
That?
You think Zach? Zach? I have no idea. It's got to be Zach. Donovan Zach. And then for the hoop heads out there, kid with the last name Mobley from Durant High School went to them in the 10th round, which is kind of sick, right? But Bazzana, this was like, hey, you know what? You're not going to play the slot money game. You're just going to like give this guy as much as he wants. I don't think that's going to be full slot. And we're going to have to wait a couple weeks to see that. But like Skeens, I think a lot of people thought Skeens was going to get full slot. He didn't. He saved him about $400,000 that they could allocate elsewhere. I could absolutely see that. Like slot's 10.5.
I would bet on it.
Yeah.
Because I think that was part of this too, where, okay, you could maybe save $2 million with Weatherholt, whatever it may be. Who knows what the numbers were?
You're right.
Maybe $1.5 million. I think in a draft like this, you were talking about like record bonus and at the top 10.5.
Who needs $10.5 million?
I think it's pretty obvious, especially since there wasn't a slam dunk number 1 pick. When there's a slam dunk number 1 pick, it'd be a lot more difficult to try to negotiate it under
right.
One. Bazzana and his team were probably well aware of the fact that if he doesn't go 1-1, there's a scenario where he slips to 4.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's bad faith to negotiations to say, hey, like, we love you, but we don't $2 million more than the next guy love you.
Right.
And if they made that clear, and I think the Weatherholt scene was very, very real. But if Bazzana started to say, you know what, I don't want to sweat my draft day. Let me go to a team that's in first place, a great organization, one that I can climb quickly in. You worry about the big league side of things later.
Yeah.
Travis Bazzana.
Right.
And when you're the Guardians as well, and you get a talent like that, and I'll cut him a $500,000 discount. Who knows what the number is going to be? But if you're the Guardian, perfect. Take the burn in hand. You get the number 1 player in the class.
Yeah.
A 4 upside combination that is so exciting because he really elevated that ceiling this year. And I really do think that he saved them money and a fair amount because they go with Doughty or Doughty?
I don't know. It goes both ways. I'll go Doughty. We'll stay with Doughty. Yeah, I'm probably wrong though, which is fine.
Some late first buzz.
Did he really?
I am not a huge fan of the delivery at this stage.
Okay.
However, Guardians probably forgotten more about pitching than I know at this point. And I look the people that are in control.
Right.
I'm excited to see maybe they look at him and say, hey, this is a guy that we can clean up a little bit. There's some things that you can't teach with him. There's a little bit of like a hesitation in his delivery. Love. But I think there's some characteristics they like. California kid really showed out. And then Kozart in the third, basically in the third. I mean, it was their third pick in the second round.
They need some catching in that organization too.
He had a good year. He had 19 home runs, I believe. Swinging a lot better. He had a little bit of late first round buzz in the middle of the year that kind of waned as it went on. But I think it's a really fun trio to get. And I think the Bizarre savings actually allowed them to shoot a little bit higher at the second and third pick.
Who's the pitchability college arm that they took? Is it Rafe Schlesinger or is it Aiden Major from West Virginia? Like they absolutely took a high major pitchability college arm.
High to them. And I'm going to have to do more digging into that. It seems like it's not Aiden Major, but maybe it's Rafe Schlesinger. I don't have a ton on those guys. So that there's just going to be a guy that just throws a ton of strikes out of this class. I'm interested to see that.
Yeah, I've got no idea who it is. But again, very, very easy.
Aram and Jack.
I mean, yeah, the Rutgers arm. It's Bazana. At the end of the day, like they just took a guy that I might see in Columbus at the end of the year. Like it's crazy. I wonder where they're going to put him immediately. I would think maybe a couple games in high A, and then quickly ship him to double, and then maybe a week in triple. Like if he follows the Cruz, Washington kept Cruz in low A for way too long last year.
Yeah,
that was weird.
He's doing like a tour.
Yeah, but like he didn't even go to high A. He just went low A to double after that. And it was like, it's kind of weird. So part of me thinks like Bazana just goes to high A, maybe 2 games of the complex, goes to high A, then goes to double, then maybe last week in triple, and we'll see what happens.
One more thought too, and another reason why I do think they save some money here is that Chase Mobley pick, which by the way, Florida, Durant has flipped never.
Yeah. Again, Mobley, Durant, sure.
This might be that scouting masterclass from them. I don't know if he's the strike thrower per se, but this might be that Guardians arm where it's like they kind of later.
Oh, he's 6'5", 195, sure.
10. I think he was deemed unsignable once he slipped out of the first couple rounds.
Okay.
He was kind of a consensus top 100 draft prospect. And I mean, this guy, late in 2023, was sitting 95 in the perfect game events. Damn. I mean, he can run it up to the upper 90s. So 6'5", 200 pounds there. Like, he's got some lively stuff. You grab him in the 10th. And because it was right before the 11th, which is right where that cutoff is of being able to give an overslot amount.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be their feather in their cap pick here. And to be able to do that while getting the number 1 player in the draft, got to be happy with that.
The Rockies had a great draft. The Rockies...
Hey, they had a great one last year, too.
I know. The Rockies had a great draft again. There's a reason that we're 2 Rockies fans and like borderline diehard now. I won't say that we've been around for a long time, but now that we're in, we're in. The Colorado Rockies went Charlie Condon at number 3 overall. Then Brody Brecht got to them at 38. So it's like, all right, we're not going to scratch our head here. We're just going to take it. Brecht, the Iowa right-hander. Then Jared Thomas, the outfielder from the University of Texas, went to them in the second, 42nd overall. 77th overall, Cole Messina, the South Carolina catcher. And then Blake Wright, the third baseman at Clemson, went to them in the third. College. They did not take a single high school guy. They took a ton of bats early. They took a ton of arms late in the front 10 rounds. They have a plan of attack.
This is the best case scenario for them. I think this is the best case scenario for Charlie Condon. And probably not for Brody Brecht.
Yeah.
But like, he's going to be prioritized. Plenty.
Yeah.
This couldn't have gone better. They wanted pitching, and that they were probably a little bit sad that they couldn't take the best pitcher in the draft at 3, even though I think they were thrilled to get Charlie Condon as well. Just, how much they want to get the high upside arm because it's so rare for them to be able to attain one. Well, you still got one later on in Brody Brecht. And yes, there's volatility there. Yes, there's a lot of things that need to be sorted out, but it's not pitching at altitude for Brecht throwing strikes.
Yeah.
And he's a splitter, slider, fastball guy that can run it up to well over triple digits. We've seen him apparently to 104.
Yeah.
think that was a hot gun. Okay, if it's 102, right. That will play in altitude.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's the exciting part. And also, Condon, like, the one concern I had, and the reason why he's a little bit lower for us than others, is breaking balls.
Yeah.
And depthier pitches kind of just, his path will be over it. He gets in and out of the zone too quick. But with what he's going to be able to do at Coors now, with how he pulverizes fastballs and breaking balls not quite moving as well there, it's best case scenario for him to hedge that one perceived weakness. This guy could be an MVP candidate if it works out there.
I'm collecting cards. Like, I feel like I've said that a couple times, like, oh, I'm going to collect this guy's cards. Condon, it's such a slam dunk to try and collect his cards. I'll collect Condon cards.
I think when you look at Jared Thomas at 3-2, I like what they've been doing in those, like, third, fourth round areas, fifth round looks. Cole Carrick, which I liked him. I don't like Thomas that much, but I do like Thomas a lot for a lot of the same reasons. It's a really impressive swing from the left side that I think was underrated. It's the ability to drive it to all fields. He's fast. He's athletic. He plays good center field. I don't know why these guys keep slipping. Like, if I was a scouting director, if I was involved in the draft process, like, I would be cleaning up on these guys.
Right.
Maybe it's a bias I have towards these types, but the Rockies seem to be finding them well. Jordan Beck, a little bit more power-oriented, but another guy that kind of just slid right to them and they're able to get in. They do it with Carrick. I think Thomas, again, could be another good get, but the 1-2 punch of Condon and Rex make this a successful draft.
Yep. All right, we jumped to Detroit. You want to talk successful draft here? Dude, I mean, Detroit might have had the best draft that we had in baseball at this point. They got Bryce Rayner to fall to them at 11. Bryce Rayner, the Harvard Westlake kid, the shortstop, went to them at number 11. Then Owen Hall, the high school arm out of Oklahoma, Edmond North High School in Oklahoma, 49th overall. 72nd overall, Ethan Scheifelbein, who you looked at, the left-hander, high school left-hander from Corona Senior High School in California. Then University of San Diego, Josh Randall in arm went to them, 85th overall. And Michael Massey, who was like legit coming into this year. I know underwhelmed. Massey fell to them, the Wake Forest right-hander, in the 4th round at 114. They also went a Jack Penny guy, shortstop out of Notre Dame, in the 5th. Like, man, they got after it with high school guys in the front 3, and we know they love their high school guys. Hedging that by adding a college arm in Massey that, like, looked to be one of the more finished products in college baseball coming into the year. This was a hell of a draft from Scott Harris.
He did it again. You know, we did criticize the Langford versus
Clark
thing, but at the same time, he still had a great draft because he went out and got one of my favorite prospects in baseball in McGonigal, and they had several other great picks in that draft. And so, like, it's what you do with those savings. You can always say, oh, I would have went with this guy instead, but you got to let it all play out in terms of, you know, what else you can go get there. And I will give Harris credit. He's not afraid to roll the dice there. The very obvious safe pick would have been to go with Langford last year and continue to play it safe. In this instance, I thought this was not safe, but this was kind of the no-brainer pick.
I mean, Montgomery went a pick later. Like, you could have gone with either of them.
Could have went with, and I think this was a little bit riskier than one of the best college bats. But Rayner slips right to them.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a guy that can stick it short, plus power, sweet left-handed swing, legit prospect and mound to fall back on. And the only reason he's not a two-way guy is he doesn't want to be. And then Owen Hall, electric arm that can run it up to the upper 90s. I think they got to be really happy about that. But Scheifelbein, I think, is the guy that is the most intriguing to me in this group, where we saw him in the National High School Invitational go 7 shutty, 1 hit, 12 Ks. He threw 107 pitches in that outing, and he averaged 91 with the fastball, but ran it up to 94. Such a smooth delivery, repeats it really well, great feel to spin it, strike thrower, like absolute strike thrower. You figure he ticks up a little bit more as he matures. He's a little bit younger for the class, a young 18. Yeah, great get there. So yeah, you get arguably the top prep bat in the class. You get 2 really fun prep arms, one that's more high upside velocity from the right side, one that's more pitchability from the left side. Yep. And then you go get the college arm that slipped and you're hoping can bounce back in Michael Massey. I don't have a ton on Josh Randall, but I know he is a guy that a lot of people like as well to mix in here. Harris is proven that he can get creative and be really smart in this draft.
Before we get to Houston, programming note, we're going obviously a lot longer than we were expecting. I think we'll probably break this into 2 episodes and go 15 and then 15. So we're going to do Houston, KC, Angels, Dodgers, Marlins to wrap up this episode, and then the back 15 alphabetically in Major League Baseball on tomorrow's episode, or we might just do like a 2-for-1. Hey, this goes out in the morning and this one goes out in the afternoon. But I would say to be safe, like back-to-back days. You know, you got this one coming out on Wednesday and then the next one coming out on Thursday. But Houston, as we jump to them now, they went with Walker Yannick, who's in their backyard here. The Sam Houston State catcher went 28th overall, another draft win, another mock win for Mr. Layton. Then Ryan Forcucci from UC San Diego, the arm. Another arm in the 4th, Parker Smith out of Rice. Again, a guy that is close to home. And then Liberty University, Cole Hertzler in the 5th round. He is another arm. Caden Powell from Seminole State in Oklahoma, a junior college kid, a shortstop, went to them in the 6th. Then they didn't have a second-round pick. They had 1 pick in the top 100. They did a good job with Yannick, like he fell right into their lap and they didn't overthink it. There were a lot of catchers on the board at this point. Like there was kind of a runoff at the end of the first. Yannick went first, then Malcolm Moore, then Loma Vida. But Yannick, I think you perceived as like the best of the bunch when it came to those 3.
100%. Loma Vida is probably right there with them.
Yeah.
You give or take. Yeah. Loma Vida, I think, is a more well-rounded catcher, but Yannick, in terms of what the Astros want to, and fits the bill way better. This is the best defensive catcher in the draft, point blank period, no doubt about it. He threw up 53% base stealers this year. Wow. It's a 70 arm behind the dish. He moves well behind there. He receives well. And think about it. With what they like in their catchers, it's exactly what they should go get. And I don't think he's slipping much further than this.
No.
There's teams that probably were hoping he'd slip 1 or 2 more spots to them. So the challenge with that, though, is Yannick now probably commands the full $3.13 million slot.
Sure.
So when that happens and you don't pick against a 101, your hands are tied from a bonus pool perspective.
Yeah.
So they go with Forcucci, who probably would have been a higher pick had he not gotten hurt. I don't know the scope of the injury or what it was, but he threw early in the year and then we didn't see him throw much.
They'll probably save some money on an injured pitcher.
Exactly. It is fun. And he does have a lot of carry to the fastball. I think there's plenty of projection here. And a guy that if you get him right and get him healthy could be really fun. And then, a Liberty arm with some interesting data points.
Sure.
And Cole Hertzler, like that's what you got to do when you're a little bit tight on money at the top. But Yannick's the pick.
Yeah. We'll jump to Kansas City here. Is that Caglianoni? How do we say that? Yeah, Jack Caglianoni went number 6 to them. Jack Caglione, that's how we say it, number 6 overall to Kansas City, the Florida Ohtani adjacent. And then David Shields from Mount Lebanon High School in the Pittsburgh area. He was a switch hitter that is an arm and was a talented quarterback in the Pittsburgh area. And I just broke the news to Aram before we recorded. Like that kind of is a hotbed for all-time quarterback talent. But Shields quarterback on the mound. I'm a sucker for quarterbacks on the mound. And this is another guy. Drew Beam, the national champion right-hander out of Tennessee, went to them 76th overall. Then LP Langevin from UL Lafayette, Canadian guy, right-handed pitcher. And then AJ Causey, another national champ, right-hander out of Tennessee, went to them in the 5th round. They went arms. Aside from Caglione, who's going to hit. He's going to scrap the TWP position on the draft tracker, I'm sure. But Caglione, then college arm, or high school arm, pardon. College arm, college arm, college arm, college arm, college arm, college arm, college catcher, college arm. The Royals want some pitching in their system, and I think they're getting better at it from who we've talked to.
Oh, yeah. And that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to hear about just I wouldn't even say the changes, but just how things are going well from a pitching development perspective, listen to our conversation with Walter Pennington. And by the way, congratulations to him.
Yeah, dude.
I heard he was smiling. I know
punching out his first guy at Coors. Like, hey, go throw at Coors.
And
he's from there. Mines.
Air.
Oh, yeah.
Funky lefty that just has an invisible, and they're like, how is he not with us?
And Colorado School of Mines.
Yeah, they're like, what did we do?
Right.
Testament, and he'll tell you, Pennington, the Royals really helped him, figure out how to get himself to the point that he's at now, which is one of the most improved pitchers in the minor leagues over the last couple of years, and just such an awesome dude. But I think they feel really confident about what they can do there. You get Cags at 6. That was just a no-brainer. You're getting someone that, for me, number 3, a prospect in the draft because of the upside. Well aware that the chase is off the charts, well aware of the volatility that comes with that, but the ceiling is so much higher than anybody else.
It's not close.
It's not even particularly close. I agree. His C swings are capable of producing home runs, whereas most other hitters' C swings are pop-ups to the infield. Like, this is a freak of freaks. He wants to do both. I think probably just so he could feel like he tried it.
Yeah.
He is talented enough to do both. I just think it's going to be a Bryce Eldridge type of situation where you're going to see, the Royals are going to see up close and personal how freaking talented he is offensively. And you're going to say, I know you can be a big league arm, but like, you could be one of the best big league hitters.
Yeah.
Let's focus on that. I think that's what they're going to do. But David Shields, diving into the video on him, another really polished, fun, just well-rounded left-handed pitcher. And you can see that when you told me the football side of things, it's like, that makes sense given the athleticism that you can see on the mound here. Young for the class, he reclassified, as you mentioned, and for what his last year at football, so he could reclassify and focus on baseball.
So he was a 25 kid that was playing football and was like a good quarterback in Mount Lebanon High School in the Pittsburgh area again, but reclassified at 24, so he's young. He's what?
17.
And like a young 17?
Older 17. He's going to be 18 in September.
Oh, that poor baby. He's going to get his first outings at the complex in before he turns 18.
And when you watch him throw, he looks ready for it.
Cool.
It's a really good field to throw, clean delivery. And I mean, he's mostly low 90s. But last year kind of crept back up a little bit higher to 93. And I just think the pitchability side of it, there's a lot of room for growth and projection. Now focusing just on pitching. Being a switch hitter too, the guy that was a pitcher, I actually love that. Yeah. Balanced body. You're swinging from both sides. You actually are using all those.
Yeah, you do the Skeens thing, man. You put the water jug on your back, and you do the lefty delivery, and you feel the torso movement, and then the righty delivery.
That's a reason.
Yeah,
it's actually a great comparison. And then Drew Beam, this is another dude that had first round buzz early in the year, and it wasn't the best year from him at Tennessee, but we still saw what this guy can be. He's sitting mid-90s.
I know they typically went like bullpen day on a Friday, but like he was their one.
Yeah. I mean, when he was on, we're talking about a guy that down the stretch struck out 31% of batters. Sat in over his last 4 outings, sat 94.5 with the fastball, while mixing a curveball, a slider, a changeup. Like, if they can get him right from a developmental standpoint, this could be one of the bigger steals of the draft. He's 6'4", 210-pound, powerful righty. Right. So to get him on top of Shields, and remember, they traded their comp pick days ago.
Yeah,
because I think they felt confident that they could still navigate this draft well to go get Hunter Harvey. This is another one of my favorite drafts in the early going.
Nats capitalized on the comp pick. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in part 2. Obviously, they're the last team that we're doing alphabetically. But man, like, note it's not high school arms either. It's like, okay, you know what? We want an idea of what you can be, and we're going to help you put the finishing touches on that. I think that's really cool. I know that there are a lot of organizations that do like high school arms because they can mold them into what they want them to be. The Padres never take college arms, like ever. And if they do acquire them, it's via trade. Like Waldron went to Nebraska. He was the player to be named later in the Clevenger deal. You think about all of their best pitching prospects recently, like it's either trades or it's an IFA in Iriarte, who was there before the Cease trade, obviously, or high school in Snelling, high school in Lesko, high school in Mackenzie Gore. Like, they want a blank canvas to work with, knowing that you have the ability to use the stuff in a variety of different ways. The Royals, I think, like this being the nascent stages of their pitching development, they're like, you know what? We want something where we know what the idea is and we're going to make tweaks.
Well, and I think there's two schools of thought there. Like the Yankees do that as well. And they seem to develop guys as well as, anybody in terms of maximizing that arsenal, even if it's a college guy. So
yeah,
with what we have now, information-wise, like you can still alter these college guys, and they're as malleable sometimes as some of these high school guys. So I think it's a fun approach, and I'm very interested to see how these arms all kind of work out for them. But I love the combination of Shields and Bean flanking and Caglione at the top. Like,
yeah,
that is you got to be really pumped if you're a Royals fan. And what I like as well is there's upside here, but you're also just getting a glut of arms. I figure they're probably going to trade a couple arms. It's not a good farm system.
Yep.
They want to go all in this year. I hope we're saying it right. Ben Kuderna. We learned recently that we could be saying
Kuderna.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
A million times. I've never listened.
Right. Kuderna or Kuderna. I don't know which one it is.
Mazzucato's thrown like 88 now, so I don't know if teams are that interested, but he could be on the move. But if they're going to make a move this year, it's probably going to be an arm. So stockpile a bunch of others and build yourself here to where you can be aggressive buyers, but still try to build up this farm system.
Yeah, 3 more teams, 2 LA and Aram's favorite. Starting with the LA Angels, Christian Moore at 8. We've got thoughts. Chris Cortez, the A&M right-hander, went in the second round, 45th overall. Ryan Johnson, right-hander out of Dallas Baptist, went in 2C. That's compensation?
Yes.
Yeah. So the second compensation round, 74th overall. Yeah, that was the Ohtani comp pick. Your show, Ryan Johnson. Ryan Prager, the left-hander out of A&M, went in the third round to them. And at 110, they take Austin Gordon, the Clemson right-hander. So they went pitching heavy in their first, 11 picks, I think, 10 rounds? Yeah, 11 picks. They took 3 position players. One of them went number 8 overall in Christian Moore. Christian Moore is an absolute dog. He's a gamer. He's awesome. I am really excited to see Christian Moore. I feel really bad for the college player that ends up with the Angels. I don't feel bad for their wallets because they're going to be making big league money very, very soon. I feel bad because their progression is going to be not expedited, like I think closer to eliminated than expedited.
Yes, eliminated is the right word.
Yeah.
There is no progression.
There's no progression.
It kills me because I like Christian Moore in the grand scheme. I don't like Christian Moore relative maybe to the industry, where I think he's been ranked more as like a 10th, 11th, 12th prospect.
Yes.
To me, he's more like 18, 19, 20 range. Still a really good piece for a guy that's, going to be second base only.
Yeah.
My thing with him is I wanted just a little bit more runway of, proof of concept here. It's going to have the biggest improvement in contact rate in college baseball last year, from 65% the year before to 77% this year. I want to see him build on that. That doesn't just immediately mean that he figured out how to hit to the nth degree and now it's going to work forever. Like, you still have to apply those improvements against professional pitching. And guess what happens? Against professional pitching, sometimes you revert back to the bad habits.
Correct.
Because
you're trying to survive. Yeah.
He only has a couple hundred at-bats of this new and improved Christian Moore. So I think he's a great player. And I like that he'd be a good get for them if they're going to save money. They got some other arms that I like and we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But if you're going to rush this guy like Nolan Shanwell, I don't like it.
No, I think there was one guy that I wasn't going to throw my hands up at if they picked, and it was Braden Montgomery. Because that's the guy that I feel like, hey, he's so simple and he's so in tune with what he wants to do in the batter's box. He doesn't need anybody to tell him what to do because he's already awesome. But Moore, man, I'm with you. It was kind of a breakout this year. At least this version of Christian Moore was a breakout this year. And you're taking a breakout guy over 1 year in college baseball, which again is about 60 games. And I know he won it, so that might have pushed him to 70 games. You're taking a sample of 70 good games with this new template of him, and you're saying, all right, go do that against anybody, man. Pick your all-star.
Yeah, that's the craziest part. But no, I do think that upside-wise, power-wise, what you can do for them, it's not a crazy reach or anything like that. It's just knowing what they want to do. It's a little bit surprising. Cortez might be in the bullpen tomorrow.
Okay.
He throws 100. And I don't know exactly what they're going to try to keep him as a starter. I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
He's averaged 100 against Tennessee his last time out in college baseball. Threw it 90 plus pitches and averaged 100.
Mm.
So, I mean, the fastball is lively. He could spin it a little bit. There's some stuff to like there. Johnson is more of that pitchability, fun guy that can just, when we saw the stuff play, it's the 92, 94, slider is nasty, manipulates it to a cutter, and he's 6'6". So I actually loved this pick. And I think that's a guy that they'll probably be pretty aggressive with and push through the minors with some urgency. And then Ryan Prager from Texas A&M, I think he'd go early.
Yep.
He falls to them at 81. And another higher floor lefty fills up the zone, can push them quickly. I did really like those 2 picks for them. This is the worst farm system in baseball. You're going to get 2 guys that are at least high probability back-end arms. Maybe at least they could be a 5-starter or a 6-starter, quote-unquote. Right. They need guys like that, too. I mean, both these guys have higher ceilings, so that don't get me wrong, but they're both guys that instantly plug into your farm system, instantly are probably top 10 prospects for them, which is pretty crazy, and arguably are probably some of their better pitching prospects right away.
Yep. All right, 2 more teams. Dodgers. Word of the Dodgers draft is apparently athleticism. Like, they just went with a whole bunch of athletes. Kellen Lindsey, the quarterback at a Hardy High School, the shortstop, Florida high school kid, taken 23rd overall. Didn't have a second-round pick. Third-round pick, 98th overall, Chase Harlan, a third baseman from Central Bucks East High School in Pennsylvania. Then they went an arm from Cal Poly and Jacob Wright. Brooks Auger, an arm from Mississippi State. And then Elijah Hanlon in the 7th round from Oregon State. Hanlon, a very productive year as the up-the-middle mate with Travis Bazzana in, is it Oregon State? Where is it? Yeah, what city is it in? No, I know this. It's not Beaverton. Oh, man. No, that's Oklahoma State. Corvallis. Yeah, Corvallis. There we go. It took me a minute. But they took a lot of guys that I think would pass the combine with flying colors.
Yeah, this is the all-combine team for you.
Yeah.
But you're the Dodgers. You can afford to do that. Similar conversation to what we said with the Orioles, but I think you even further here. I mean, Lindsey is the best runner in the draft. 80 speed. Legit football player here. But he swings like a guy that has focused a lot of his time to football as well. And the Dodgers may have a lot of confidence in their ability to develop him as a hitter, and that could happen. I think a lot of teams were interested in him in the late part of the first round sandwich part, just because of the athleticism as a Florida kid too. And clearly there's the bat's a ball. Swing needs, it's fine. They're very risk tolerant, and that's what they're going to do with him. And a guy that could play a good short and run at 80 speed and throw into power, like, of course you'll take a shot on that. But I thought it was a little bit of a surprise. I didn't know what direction they were going to go, but ultimately, you can't fault the Dodgers for trying to go for the upside there, and a guy that is a really, really good athlete. Jacob Wright is more kind of like a funky arm that had some command challenges through stretches, but overcame them enough. I'm interested to see what they do there, and clearly they like something there, I think, from the data perspective. It's mostly 90-92, but it's funky, and if I dove deeper into like the TrackMan data, I'm sure there's some things that stand out there. Remember, they were as limited as they've been pool-wise in long. They're always limited, but they picked the 23, 98, and 128. And then they didn't pick again until 190. So, I mean, they were very tied up in terms of their ability to really get creative here. And I think they decided, let's just shoot for the stars with our first pick, because it's not like Lindsey's going to be a major discount.
No.
So, not a ton of intrigue. Harlan is kind of a 50s across the board type of guy. So that's the other side of it.
Yeah, well, that hedges it.
Yeah, hedges it a little bit. But then it's just athletes on the back end again, too. So I get it when you don't have a lot of money.
Right. Last team that we got to talk about here is the Miami Marlins. And the first pick made Aram LMAO.
Thinks that I've been LMAO.
And then after that, the first pick, I think, started to make a little bit more sense based on where the money's going to go. But 16th overall, they went PJ Morlando, the outfielder / first baseman from Somerville High School in South Carolina. Good, nice. Center fielder PJ Morlando, who's 80 grade glove, 85. What does the 20/80 scale stop at?
First base. Stashing them. Big power.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing is, and that's the tough part of it, is like I imagine a world where Morlando is going to swing it really well.
Yeah.
And then people are going to post that clip of me laughing. Being like, this is, you were wrong about Morlando. I like Morlando's swing a lot.
Yeah. You liked it a lot at the, beginning of the second round. You liked it a lot, maybe even for a PPI pick.
Yes. I thought he was, considered him in the top 30, and he's closer to 40 in our draft rankings, because of the lack of defensive value there, because there was a little bit more swing and miss than you'd like to see. But the crazy thing to me is, we were talking about how risky it is to take these first base only or limited defensive profiles, because we've been seeing college guys really struggle. and you go get a high school guy, I know they're going to save a ton of money there. And I think their plan was probably Seaver King. Everything I heard was Seaver King, Cam Smith, both gone.
Yeah, both.
So what do you pivot to? I imagine they had a plan in place for high school, then go under slot.
Mm-hmm.
They do get Carter Johnson, who, if people are listening to our early draft previews and mock drafts way back, I mocked Carter Johnson in the Marlins at 16 in the first mock draft because I loved the swing. I thought there was some projection there physically, could fill out some more. I think it's all fields, good field to hit, has a shot to stick it short. I've always been a fan of Carter Johnson. So it made the pick make a lot more sense when they went out and got him. He slipped a bit because of the fact that he made some slight swing adjustments to try to welcome more power as he matures. And I think it created a little bit of inconsistency in the spring.
Okay.
But you still got to be thrilled to get, I think, now 2 fringe first rounders. And the way I kind of try to relate it is, okay, you can throw 1 dart from 10 feet away, or you could throw 2 darts from 18 feet away.
Yeah.
Some people might prefer the 1 dart from 10 feet away. It seems like Peter Bendix, in this case, with the way the draft unfolded, preferred the 2 darts from 18 feet away to try to hit the target.
He was in a weird spot at 16. 16 is not a place that I really want to be because that means that you were fine enough to get outside the top of the draft. And a reminder, this is from the year that they were a wild card team. It was the worst case scenario. It's lost all the fans already. Right. Especially in this draft where it really fell off at about 8 or 9 when it came to overall player rankings. But it felt like they were trying to get creative here. And it was funny. Aiden May went, third or comp B, 70th overall. And I was like, oh, he runs it up to 97. And you, jaded Marlins fan, everybody throws 97. Oh, he's got a breaking ball that's spun at 3,000 RPM. Everybody's got a 3,000 RPM breaking ball. You were just shutting it down immediately. It's I don't care anymore. But I think they did get pretty creative here after Morlando. And hey, man, they justified and adjusted and then justified, which is cool. You just want an answer. You want a why. And I feel like they gave the why. Yeah.
They're going to say, second round or whatever.
Right.
You're going to be a little bit
right. It's oh, you're just being edgy now. Yeah.
Right. But I will say I would have went with the Carson bench and just not overthink. I wouldn't have overthought.
At 16?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, for me, he was top 15 player in the class.
Yeah.
Somebody got to can play center field, that can swing it. We'll talk about the Mets draft. I'd dream for them to have Benj land to them. I would have went with Benj. I would have went with Theo Gillen. We're going to go with the high school guy, but they clearly saved a lot more money and then they get Carter Johnson. So it works out for them there. In May, nasty split too. So that's fun as well.
Oh, so he's got a 3,000 RPM breaking ball and a splitter?
Yes.
Yeah, but everybody does that.
Yeah. No, this is a fun get for the 21-year-old that I do think has some intriguing stuff and high probability reliever at the very least, where that stuff will play out of the pen, no doubt about it. And then Gage Miller has some intrigue as well. The other thing that I think that they did that is interesting that I want to kind of see how it works out signing bonus wise is they took a lot of shots in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, where it's guys that may have some signability concerns. Maybe not the college guys as much, but a couple high school guys and Grant Shepardson that may have some signability concerns. And then even a Dub Cleat could go back to school. A guy that I think maybe an interesting.
That's a sick name. Dub Gleed. That's so cool.
Yeah. So would have went with a higher hit rate guy. But again, I think they preferred to go with the 2 darts from 18 feet away and then some other decent arms later on. I'm interested to look into Fenwick Trimble as well in the 4th round, see what they did there. But I think that might have been a money saver.
Fenwick Trimble and Dub Gleed in the same draft. Again, we're working alphabetically. So the back 15 alphabetically, that'll be Brewers, Twins, Mets, Yankees, A's, Phillies, Pirates, Pirates, Padres, Giants, Mariners, Cardinals, Rays, Rangers, Blue Jays, and Nats. Those are all coming in part 2 of this draft recap and breakdown.
Perfect. A lot of fun. Sorry if it was confusing at first because we didn't say that we were going to split it in half.
Yeah.
And now, so alphabetically in 2 parts, so you'd be like...
Episode title says part 1 anyway, so it's 2 parts.
Yeah. Our bad again. You're used to it by now. Also, for bonus subscribers, I'll be doing a draft mailbag.
Cool.
Look out on your emails. I will shoot out an email to just field of questions. Excited to answer your questions for the bonus episode, which you can subscribe to in the episode description. I'll be doing a week to get your questions answered. Make sure they will always get answered in those mailbags. Looking forward to getting those from you. So always thank you for listening. Look forward to talking prospects with you tomorrow.